And this is why in the religious journey, particularly, an effort is made to establish some other than self-reference for validating the integrity of the religious experience. Now the Friends do it in an interesting way. It's part of their whole religious orientation. You have a concern, you share your concern at the meeting, and if there is a movement of the Spirit that gives corroboration and confirmation to this inner concern, which is private and personal and yet absolute and vital and perhaps even transcendent. It's private, it's intimate. And confirmation to this inner concern, which is private and personal and yet absolute and vital and perhaps even transcendent. But it's private, it's intimate. It's down at this area that I'm talking about. And the assumption is that if it's valid, you see, then something down in that area in you will quiver just a little. And this gives a basis for external validation. It gives a basis for an other than self-reference. And this becomes a check against my being self-deceived. And yet, you see, this is the trick that the mind plays, the monster. Because it insists that you've got to prove it. You've got to prove it. And you've got to prove it externally, so that there can be some empirical validation for the inner experience unawares. And yet, there is something in the human spirit that recognizes that ultimately the validity of the commitment does not rest upon any kind of empirical validation, and yet the mind insists that some kind of empirical validation must always be sought and established. And this is a part of the dilemma of the Christian experience. These are songs in my childhood. If Satan says I don't have any grace, I'll take him back to the starting place. We always want validation. And yet, you know, we don't want to be mistaken. And I don't know what you think of this, and I don't want to frighten anybody and give you nightmares. But a man may live his entire life, all the time, convinced that this is the be-all and end-all for his rules, and discover just before he dies, way back there, he turned left rather than right. That's why pride and arrogance in terms of the movement of the living God in the living life are so perilous. The only possible response of the human spirit to the pilgrimage is one of humility. but I have said yes in all the ways that I know how. And perhaps, just perhaps, the results are not mine, either to measure or to determine. And this sounds like anarchy. My responsibility is the yielding. You remember the story in the book about the man who had the estate, and he was going on a journey, and he knew he was going to overspend, and he would need to have some money waiting for him when he came back. So he called three of his most prestigious men to him, and he gave one, let us say, $10, and the other $5, and the other he gave $1. And he said, now I'm going away. Only that doesn't make much money, but you can multiply it. And I'm going away, and when I come back, I want you to report. And so the rumor went around when he was back, and man number one came, and he said, you gave me $10, and here's $15.25. Good. You gave me $5, here's $8. Excellent. Now the only man who made a speech was the man whom he gave $1. He said, now you have a better reputation. I don't know whether you know that. You read what you haven't sown, you do this and this and this and that. So I buried it so that I could watch it every day. And when I heard that you had come back, I dug it up, and here it is intact. Then the owner of the estate had his bouncer come and throw the man out into outer darkness where the master says there's wailing and gnashing of teeth. Why? Because he didn't make any money for it? No. It's a misreading, I think. Because he didn't work at it. This is the only responsibility. To work at it. Result God. As much of a cop-out as that sounds. Just somehow he will feel that he can trust his spirit with me. And I will be alone. Through which he can breathe. Good stuff now. So, go thy way. All things say, thou hast thy way to go, thou hast thy need of thee to create in others. No other shall walk in the light that falls across thy path. Thee the angel calls, he calls others. So live thy life. Go thy way. This is all you have. Your life. And my prayer to God is that he will not repent because he gave me my life.